I think racial profiling is a problem in American community, in American society to begin with, and we cannot forget or ignore the fact that whenever we apply for something or we do something, there's this little box that asks for our race, and for whatever reason it's there. I don't think it's a good reason, but it certainly creates a certain impression that certain people of certain background behave in a certain way. African Americans are represented in the criminal justice system in a overly disproportionate way in terms of convictions. Certainly it plays a role in the mind of a police officer. Police officer reads the same statistics as a layperson. But again, given the situation, given the context, given what happened, what transpired, the exchange between the professor and the police officer, I'm convinced that race was not an issue. An issue was the professor challenging the authority, the domain of the police officer. I think that the officer was fairly within the scope of his authority. It's a discretionary process that is well defined within the law. A police officer responding to a burglary in progress has to ascertain that things are not happening the way other people perceive that they are. If there was no burglary, it's up to police officer's discretion to make all the moves and proceed the way he has to proceed to make sure that this is indeed the case, that there was no burglary. The fact that somebody has an address on his driver's license or another document doesn't necessarily automatically assures the officer that they actually have the right to live there. If you sell your house today, the driver's license with your address stays valid for years to come until you change it, maybe a year from now, maybe 3 years from now. Usually a person does not break into his own house, so the behavior was problematic to begin with. Obviously, it happens. The professor had the right to be there, but in police officer's mind, in a well-trained police officer's mind, somebody breaking into their house and telling them, oh, I live here, does not automatically convey to the officer that everything is fine. If it did, I would actually challenge the police officer's professionalism. Once the professor was inside the house and showed the police officer the identification, in ideal world, there should have been some other moment of clarification what happened, and then the two parties were supposed to part in a peaceful manner. But for whatever reason, the professor became agitated. And I am not saying that it's unusual for a person who is confronted by a police officer in their house to become agitated, but I'm saying it's very unusual to start calling the officer names, insulting them. Especially as a college professor, one should know that it's police officer's job to respond to a call for service.